Hello everybody, ReverendDrRed here, and I just want to mention briefly that in two different news reports on two different occasions from two different reporting agencies, there have been DHS informants that told these reporters what's going to happen, and that it's all being played out by the government. The latest thing that I reported, and you can find the link to the news article on my Facebook page at facebook.com/ReverendDrRed. And what you're going to find in this report is that, according to this informant from the DHS, which is the Department of Homeland Security, not only is Obama preparing for a race war and a class war, and is he telling the Department of Homeland Security to prepare for this uprising against the government, but Obama is facilitating it. So, on the risk of sounding like a conspiracy theorist here, I'm going to say that the Department of Homeland Security, that has numerous properties, including this one farm up in Georgia, that has stacks upon stacks upon stacks of these, what they call casket liners, which are oversized caskets that can fit about 5 or so bodies in it without a problem. And they have them in full size as well as child size. I believe there's the small size, like about an infant size, a little bit bigger, and then you have the adult size, I believe what they have up on this land. And in fact, they ordered these caskets, and 450 some odd million rounds of hollow point ammunition, as well as the insane number, I can't remember the exact number, but it's pretty up there, of the MREs, which is pre-made meals ready to eat. You just open up the packaging, it's the military-grade meals that the soldiers get when they go overseas, that kind of stuff. You don't got to worry about preparing or anything. It's already right there in a relatively lightweight package. Because they are preparing for an event to take place that they are instigating in the first place. And then you have the fact that there's all these unit camps going up. The military recently, I believe it was the Army specifically, that started recruiting for soldiers or civilians to be trained specifically for the task of working in these unit camps or internment camps. Each of these camps are owned and going to be ran by FEMA, the DHS, and the National Guard. Any information I'm spewing out right now, any of you that don't know about it already can find all the information about it simply by Googling it, or, like I said, going to facebook.com/ReverendDrRed and just taking a quick look at all the links of all the different articles I have posted up there. And I had a brief mentioning of different things on the ministry's website at spiritualmessiahministries.org and spiritualmessiahministries.com. Now, a lot of people are suggesting that they still believe that Barack Obama is the greatest president of all time. a lot of people who, even though they believe Obama is by far the worst president and they're not going to vote for him this year's elections, don't believe that our government would lead an attack on its own people. Then there's everybody who understands that Obama is trying to turn us socialist and do an all-out power grab of every spectrum possible there is. He's already instituting or trying to institute Obamacare, amongst other programs. He's trying to take over our food, what we can and can't. He's trying to tell us how we can and can't dress. He's trying to tell us history. I mean, I don't know how many of you parents out there are reading the textbooks that your children are coming home with, but if you pick up any of their textbooks, for one, it says that Muslims were always a part of America, which they weren't. Before the late 1900s, there wasn't a Muslim in America, at least as an American citizen. As far as them founding America, everybody knows who really founded America. And the only play Muslims had in early American history is that they bribed our presidents in order to stay away from us. We were handing them money. Up until Thomas Jefferson. Once Thomas Jefferson got into the presidential office, the Muslims again tried upping the bribe. I believe at that point they were trying to raise it to roughly $40,000. And Thomas Jefferson said no, and went to war with the Muslims. That's where the Marine Corps hymn comes, to the shores of Tripoli. It comes from the very first battle we had as the nation of the United States of America with the Muslims. This isn't a new war. This war has been being fought for the past 200 some odd years. And as I was saying, people don't want to believe that, you know, Obama or our government would attack its own people or lead to an attack against the people. And then there's others that are saying, well, that seem to be up to the up on, you know, politics and different government organizations and the procedures of things, and they figure, well, if Obama declares martial law, yes, in a sense that does disrupt the Constitution, considering under martial law the Constitution is suspended indefinitely. But Obama is also the first president to also be the head of FEMA. So if Obama declares martial law, yes, that knocks him out of power as the president of the United States of America. That seat no longer has any power under martial law. But because he's also the head of FEMA, he technically keeps his power and then some, because now we no longer have the United States Constitution protecting us. The Constitution has been successfully dismantled. And people are suggesting, especially this one reporter who allegedly has an informant inside the DHS, that Obama is going to incite an uprising through race war. In other words, he's going to bring the races against each other. And many of you, if you have been keeping up on the news, can see that is being played out perfectly. And it started even before the Zimmerman case, but what really sparked it was the Trayvon Martin versus George Zimmerman case, because immediately following that, there's been numerous cases around the country where there have been flash mob attacks of black youths attacking white people. The few cases that stay on top of my mind is how two youths, about 16, 17 years old, took, I believe he was only 13 years old, 14 years old, white child, white teenager, engulfed him in flames, and after they beat him, saying that he gets what he deserves, called him a cracker a couple of times, and said that that was out of revenge for Trayvon Martin. And then there was another kid that sticks out on my mind. I believe the woman was 80 years old, who was beat and raped, and she died from the attack, unfortunately, by two black youths. Another case that there was, I believe it took place in New Jersey, but I could be wrong, was after a concert let out, there was a flash mob attack right there in the parking lot. A family was robbed of all their cash, their camera, and the father and son were both beat up pretty bad. So, as you can see, even though Obama has been trying to push his race war for quite a while now, the Zimmerman thing really did it, even though Zimmerman really isn't white, he's Hispanic. When they finally realized, the media finally realized that Zimmerman was Hispanic, not white, that's when they coined the phrase white Hispanic. And actually, if you want to go by those justifications, technically, shouldn't we call Obama a white African or a white black, because he's more white than he is black? I believe he was 50% Caucasian, 25% Arab, and 25% African. So, when you want to call him white black, if you want to use the mainstream media's justifications of calling Zimmerman a white Hispanic. Now, get back to the point. If anybody has any further information on these DHS contacts that are suggesting that they are being told not only to prepare for an uprising, but to facilitate it, and that Obama is actually facilitating this uprising, please send me any information you have at ReverendDrRed@gmail.com, or leave links in the comment section of this video. Considering it is coming from unnamed contacts in the DHS, I can't really say for certain how true that is. But if we look at the facts don't really stack up in Obama's favor or in DHS's favor. As the facts show, going from the DHS's own videos for the See Something, Say Something campaign, in almost every instance, are they depicting the white Caucasian male, roughly in his 30s, as the terrorist. And just about every single case, it is either a black male or an Arab male, and that winds up being the savior of the day in all their commercials for the Say Something campaign. And if you ask my personal opinion, that right there is criminalizing the white race, because you're not seeing any other race as the criminal, and you're also not seeing anybody of the white race noticing these very suspicious acts and calling it in or trying to do anything about it. It's just the white male is the terrorist suspect, or the one acting out the suspicious behavior, and it's always an Arab male or a black male that is, the hero of the day. Then you have the fact that on Obama's side of things, from day one, he's been showing his utmost disrespect for the United States Constitution and for America. He knows how much Obamacare is going to hurt the people, yet he's still trying to push that through. And there's a portrait that I'm sure everybody has seen by now. I've seen it rotate around the internet quite a number of times now, where everybody's outside. It's an outdoor event, and there's a giant American flag in the background, and they're doing the Pledge of Allegiance. And anybody who has their hat off and is holding their hat over their heart, everybody else is standing like this. Obama, off to the corner, literally standing on the very corner of the stage, just past the American flag, is facing away from the American flag and away from everybody else, and he's standing there like this. Then there's the fact that he refuses to wear the American flag lapel pin. Then there's the fact that, as we all know, like every other president before, swore an oath at his inauguration to uphold and defend the United States Constitution, but then he turns around and not only is he attacking the Bill of Rights and the Constitution as a whole, but he actually said that he feels the Constitution is an imperfect document. He actually said the United States Constitution is an imperfect document. There are numerous videos floating around the internet and YouTube, so go ahead and Google it. I'm sure you can find a video that has that clip in it rather easily. Then we also know that numerous times he signed executive orders giving himself more power and shredding the United States Constitution. One of the biggest ones that sticks out in my head, only because I was covering it from the day I first heard about it on the news, all the way up to when he signed it. I believe I have 2, maybe 3 videos up in a row discussing the NDAA bill and what would happen if it signed into power, and asking everybody to sign a petition to stop it, to email, fax, phone call all of your congressmen to voice your opinion about it and try to stop it. Well, anybody who actually did sign the petition, by the time it reached me and I put my name on it, there were already quite a large number of signatures on that petition. It didn't really matter, because December 31st, New Year's Eve, while everybody's out drinking, partying it up, celebrating the New Year, he signs the NDAA bill into law. And as I said in the videos prior covering the NDAA bill, the NDAA bill, now that it is law, signed in by executive order, while nobody's paying attention, because everybody is drinking, celebrating the New Year, each and every American citizen is now considered a possible domestic terrorist at the government's sole discretion. If you are a Christian, especially if you're a minister that's not preaching along the government's guidelines, if you are a war veteran, if you're a homeschooler, if you're a member of the Tea Party, if you're a member of the NRA, and if you're a member of the Oath Keepers, if you're a member of Occupy Wall Street, and the list goes on. As far as the government is concerned, you are a possible domestic terrorist. Anybody who doesn't believe me, I go in depth in it in these 3 videos. I did cover the topic. Going by the name of the videos, it shouldn't be that hard to figure out which videos is covering in the AA bill. Or simply Google it and pull up the bill itself and read it. I mean, it's all right there in black and white. And then there's the fact that Obama is claiming he's a Christian, but meanwhile, back when he was a state senator, he actually said that the Sermon on the Mount is the greatest threat to our national security. Now I ask you, what is so dangerous and threatening about the Sermon on the Mount? And again, if you don't believe me about that he actually said that, Google it or do a YouTube search on it. I have found numerous people that have a video of Obama saying that the Sermon on the Mount is the greatest threat to our very national security. Then there's the slight fact that he retracted the don't ask, don't tell in the military. Now, since that has happened, countless soldiers have come out of the closet that they are, in fact, homosexual. And all that managed to do for them is they started getting brutally attacked by their fellow servicemen. Whether they were getting broomsticks shoved up their rears, raped, or what have you, because now there's no more don't ask, don't tell. Now, I'm sure even before the don't ask, don't tell was retracted, that there were homosexuals in the military. And I can't tell you how good or bad they were as fighters or as soldiers, because it was almost impossible to tell which soldier was homosexual, because they didn't tell you. Now it was their best kept secret. And that's how I feel it's for the stakes. It was safer for everybody. Not just the homosexuals, but also for the heterosexuals. And I personally feel the don't ask, don't tell needs to be reinstated. Then there's the fact that Obama is also downsizing our military, and he's making a lot of stations in the military that are either strictly female or strictly male, for obvious reasons, making them co-ed, male and female. So now you have the high sexual tensions right off the bat, especially when you're on a ship or a submarine for 6 months at a time. Now you can add in the fact that you have males and females trapped together, confined in the same area, with sexual tensions flying high. Then you can add in the fact that everybody can now be open about their homosexuality. Well, that's asking for trouble. So you're going to add in all this, it's going to cause a lot of trouble and unnecessary obstacles in the way of the soldier. And you're going to downsize the military, but you're going to call yourself a decent president. And you're going to suggest that the Sermon on the Mount is the greatest threat to national security, when you yourself is breaking down the United States military. Not just in numbers, but in morals. Then there's the fact that he's attacking our gun rights. This coming July, there's going to be a NATO convention, or not NATO, United Nations. And if that, what they're going to be discussing passes, the United Nations is going to have an international gun treaty, which equals out to an international gun ban. Each and every member state of the United Nations, their civilians are going to be disarmed. Which means here in America, as a member of the United Nations, the Second Amendment isn't going to matter anymore because they're going to disarm us. Then there's the fact that he's bringing in more than 100,000 Russian troops and an unspecified number of Chinese and NATO troops into American borders, into the United States military bases. Everybody's saying, well, our military won't disarm us, they're going to refuse. Well, now Obama doesn't need the American military to disarm us because he'll have the Russian, Chinese, and NATO troops at his disposal to do it for him. And that's only a short list, a relatively short list of what Obama has accomplished since he's been in office. I'm sure there's many more things that I can say that many of you feel are more important in your opinion than the ones that I've mentioned. And I'm not going to argue with you. At least we agree that Obama needs to get out. He does not stand for anything American. He refuses to stand by the Constitution. As a matter of fact, another thing we're going to list is the fact that he said that his authority comes from the United Nations and from NATO. And that all Congress is simply ceremonial. It's all for show. Doesn't mean anything. So we clearly have somebody who is against America trying to destroy us. So looking at his track record and looking at the track record of the DHS, even though they can say they're only following orders, but looking at the track record, wouldn't it be safe to assume that these reports that came from DHS informants are actually factual, therefore suggesting that when this one informant said that Obama not only gave the order to DHS to prepare for an uprising, but that Obama and the DHS is actually facilitating this uprising, and this uprising they're starting through race war and through class war. And again, I'll bring up the best example, the Trayvon Martin Dorsey case. Look how many flash mob attacks there have been on white people of all ages. And the alleged excuse of the attacks was that they were revenge for Trayvon Martin. And for how long now have we been hearing about the rich? The rich this, the rich that, the rich aren't paying enough. We need to raise taxes on the rich. Well, there's your race war and your class war. So looking at the facts, looking at the current events over the past 3.5 years, and looking at the track record of the White House, namely Obama, and the DHS, would you say that these two reports that allegedly came from DHS informants are factual? That they have some kind of base behind them? That even if it is a false story, there might actually be some truth behind it? Or would you say that it's complete BS and these reporters that claim they have informants within the DHS are full of it? I don't know about you, but as of this moment, I'm going to say that there might actually be some truth behind these reports. Naturally, I can't find out for certain because the only way to do so can be to contact the DHS informants themselves and ask them personally, did you say this? But you can't do that because their names were not given in these news reports. So you can only, take it for what it is. And as I said before, if anybody has any information about these DHS informants, any other information about these particular stories, anything you can find or anything you have, please send it to me. I'm going to continue following these stories as best as I can and try to determine if they are in fact factual or if they're, completely made up. When I find out for certain, I will let everybody know. However, as I said, looking at the track record, I'd say it's safe to assume that there is some truth behind these stories coming from the DHS informants. And if the latter report from the DHS informant is true, then we're not even going to see elections this year, because what he was suggesting, aside from the fact that Obama is not only preparing for an uprising and actually facilitating it himself through race war and class war, that when it happens, he's going to use that as an excuse to declare martial law, and under the guise of protecting the people of America, he is going to indefinitely postpone the elections of 2012. So if these stories are actually accurate, I'm going to say everybody better prepare for the worst, because it's starting to look like everything is going to hit the fan really soon. And that also reminds me that I believe I heard about it from WND. There's 14 states that have been notified, the governors, to stop their training of their state defense. Every state has the right to have their own state militia, completely separate from the federalized military. There are 14 states that have state defense militias, completely separate from the National Guard, not part of the National Guard or the active military in any way, shape, or form. Which means, under the Constitution, these forces cannot be federalized. They are under 100% control and leadership of their respective state governors. In the Civil War, many of these states' defense militiamen were called to duty by both the federal military as well as their state. The majority of them chose to fight for their state rather than for the federal government in the Civil War. Obama, knowing this, that he can't legally federalize these militias, also knowing that if any of these men are not only a member of the state's defense militia, but also a member of the United States military, and they're called to action by the both of them, they're more than likely to repeat the days of the Civil War and choose to fight for their state over fighting for the federal government. Obama doesn't want that. So I forget the name of the letter that was issued, but the state governors aren't even allowed to acknowledge their existence. But 14 state governors were issued this letter and were told to immediately dismantle their state defense militia. And if they don't, they will be arrested. Now, I don't know about you, but we have the constitutional right to have a state militia. This isn't the first time in history that we have had completely independent state militias ran by the state governors. So, Obama, his track record thus far, and then he's going to send these letters to these state governors who are running their own state militias, telling them to stop and dismantle their state militias, otherwise they're going to be arrested. Well, that kind of tells me that not only does he want supreme control over any type of military force in this country, but that also tells me that he's a little concerned because he wants to keep control over the entire continent. If you have 14 states with their own militias, especially if they're states that all connect to each other, and they work together, that area of the country might actually manage to fend off the federal government, especially considering how thin spread our military currently is, and successfully break away from the Union. Obama, seeing this, obviously doesn't want it, sending out letters to them to stop, otherwise they're going to be arrested, to me suggests that there might be not much more truth behind these reports of the DHS informants and what they said. Because now you have the current government not only attacking political organizations and completely independently ran militia groups, But now he's also attacking state militias that are ran by the state, by the independent state governors. And that's almost like he's trying to stop any resistance on any and all levels, whether it be armed or whether it be political. He is trying to stop it before it begins, in which in the long run only ensures his success. It might sound completely crazy to a lot of you watching this video right now. Maybe I sound completely crazy saying it, but I never take anything I see or hear and believe it. I analyze everything. I look at the facts. If this person over here is saying something, or the only one saying it, I'm not going to brush it off, and I'm not going to believe it either. I'm going to try to figure out, well, where did he get his information from? Why is he so keen on this mindset? Why is he the only one saying it? And what kind of responses is he getting for saying it? And I'm also going to look at everybody over here. I have all of you saying the same thing. All of you believing the same thing. None of you are questioning anything. Why? Is it because you really believe that to be the truth? Or is that because people over there are saying it, so you people over here are going to say it because you're scared of speaking your mind, and you're worried about the people over here are going to think about you. You see, I take everything and I analyze everything. Before I come to any conclusions, I try to find as much information as I can. And that is all I'm asking any of you to do with this. And that's why I asked you, I believe twice so far in this video, if any of you have any information whatsoever pertaining to these DHS informants and what they're suggesting about this race war and class war and the possible instatement of martial law, to please rather email it to me at ReverendDrRed at gmail.com. That is ReverendDrRed at gmail.com, or to leave it in the comment section on this video so I can review it and try to figure out how truthful these reports actually were. But as I said, talking to anybody that has any information, please send it to me. Any of you out there who think I'm crazy, for one, look at the track record. Look what's happened to this country the past 3.5 years. You can look at all the executive orders that were passed, what those executive orders entail, and the ironic dates that they were passed on. I mean, there was one that was passed on New Year's Eve, another one was passed on St. Patrick's Day. It could have been the day before St. Patrick's Day, but somewhere rather closer there to where everybody's too big worrying about drinking, partying, and having fun. It seems to be I can't think of the word. I'm tired right now. Seems to be the pattern. So, like I said, what I'm asking you to do is look at the track record, look at what these alleged DHS informants had to say, and try to find whatever information you possibly can about all of this, and then come to your own conclusion. Don't believe anything just because CNN says it, Fox says it, MSNBC says it, ABC says it. They're all mainstream media. Just about every branch of the mainstream media is owned by the government and has been federalized, which really only makes it amount out to nothing more than propaganda machine for the government. So don't believe anything, right wing or left wing, regardless how well known or how little known the organization or individual is getting information from. You take the information that you receive, compare it to what you know to be true, find whatever information you possibly can out there about it, and now that you know what everybody is saying about it, and now that you know what you believe to be true, now look at this scenario and determine for yourself what the truth really is. And please, don't be concerned what your family's going to think, what your friends going to think. Don't allow that to affect what you think. Or if you know the truth, or if you believe a certain thing, but you're not going to say it because of what your family or your friends might think, don't. You need to say it. Even if they tell you that you're completely crazy. There's many individuals out there, including myself, obviously, but there's many more individuals out there that are well more reputable than myself, that have been doing this kind of work a lot longer than I have, and have been in the picture a lot longer than I have, and that are all saying the same thing. Some of them go into more detail, and others can go into little detail, going on about a whole enormous bucket of facts. So there are other individuals out there and other organizations out there that are all saying the same thing. If you believe something to be true, you are not the only one who believes it. There are many, 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 many individuals who are standing right beside you. And there are some even standing in front of you leading the way. So please, even if you feel you're going to sound crazy to your friends and your family, believe me, I do. I already got told by a few of them that I'm crazy. Just tell them what's going on. Point them in the direction of the information. If you can at least get their brains moving, just thinking about it a little bit, then you did your job. And with any luck, they'll start investigating this stuff on their own, and they'll wake up to what's actually going on. With that being said, I just want to remind everybody, you can find tidbits of information on different things up on spiritualmessiahministries.org and spiritualmessiahministries.com. And there's my personal website, ReverendDrRed.com. Please either can comment on this video or send me an email to ReverendDrRed@gmail.com with any information anybody may have about these DHS informants and what they're suggesting is going to happen in the near future. And keep an open mind. as you hear these stories, before brushing it off, gather up as much information as you can on it, and compare it to what we know already happened. And nobody can say that the NDAA bill isn't a law because it signed into law December 31st, 2011. They can't say it doesn't potentially make every single American citizen a possible domestic terrorist because if they actually read the bill, they can see the handwriting for themselves. So anything that happened in the past, nobody can really dispute with. It already happened. So anything that's going on where people are suggesting what may happen in the near future, can just, take it with a grain of salt, find whatever information you can on it, and compare it to what happened in the past. That's the best way we can come to the truth of what's going on and where we might be possibly heading in the very near future. It is very scary times we're walking into, and as I said before, I'm going to watch these stories as closely as I possibly can. If I find or receive any additional information that proves these alleged remarks from the DHS informants either factual or fiction, I will immediately let everybody know. And with that being said, I will see everybody in the next video. Stay vigilant. God bless.